Is this in reference to how we're going to open the show today, Anthony?
Yeah. Hold on, let me make sure. All right, yep, it is. It is indeed.
That's funny. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And Mike Garafolo from the NFL Network is going to join us in just over 12 minutes, 4:15 today. Got some Take Command for you later. We're going to talk about the officiating debacle that continues to be Knicks Pacers at 4:30, as well as there's a big call elsewhere in the world of sports yesterday. And I'm just kind of curious if the officiating in sports right now is affecting people's enjoyment of it. But I'll tell you what's affecting the enjoyment of my day, Ant. I got to get this out of the way first, and then Garafolo joins us at 4:15. But I don't feel like I can go on without just screaming into the void. Everyone has had their fights with technology, and there are just few more helpless feelings than when a hard drive goes. So I was earlier today trying to edit the video from yesterday's show. There's some highlights from yesterday's show that I very much would like to put up on YouTube, and I'm gonna promise that by the end of the week they will be there. So people will still have, if they missed parts of the show, but try to catch up on the weekend. Our highlights go up on YouTube. Obviously, if there's something in particular you want to seek out, the show is always available on demand on the podcast, or you can rewind on YouTube at the Team 980. Just click our videos, then click live, and the whole show is there. But in terms of easily cut out highlights, full segments, etc., like our segments with Linnell yesterday, amongst others, we cut those and we post them. And I do that with the help of an external hard drive because video it takes up a lot of space. And I'm sitting there today and eating lunch and editing, and I just feel like my hard drive just keeps disconnecting. And I'm like, is this because my computer's falling asleep? Like, what is happening here? Why is this going? And then all of a sudden it won't reconnect. And I'm like, uh-oh. Try a different cord. Nothing. Try restarting the computer. Tried everything. And I think I'm in trouble.
Did you hit it a couple of times? Did you
Yep. Yeah, I gave it a good pop. Tried to, you want to be careful, but I did try wiggle the cord. I'm like, oh, did something come loose? Let me try to wiggle the cord. I tried in different ports.
You tried a different laptop?
I didn't until we got here, and then we tried your laptop.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Didn't work.
No.
I thought my cord was going to work. Didn't work.
Nope. Did we try my cord in your laptop?
No, we didn't do that.
I mean, it's definitely not going to work, but we can try it.
We got to exhaust all of our options, Craig.
I'm exhausted. I can tell you, if I'm an option, I'm exhausted. And it also came at a point in the day where I'm just going to full rip off the Band-Aid here, but I think we might get Keyshawn next week.
Yep.
And Clinton is helping. Clinton and Keyshawn work together. Obviously, Key just did the big interview with Jaden Daniels. Key and I are talking about schedules. I don't know if it's going to ultimately work out, but I've talked to Keyshawn Johnson today, and he was going to check his calendar to see if he could make some stuff work because he got a bunch of meetings and stuff today. So, and I'm out tomorrow, so if it happens, it'll be next week. But hopefully, going to be able to talk to Key about sitting down with Jaden, and I also know Key's got some incredible stories from draft night as a former high pick himself, former number 1 overall pick with the Jets. So we'll do all that with Keyshawn Johnson next week if we can get the scheduling worked out. But Clinton initially was going to be on the show today, and he's in New York, I believe, for ESPN's Upfronts tonight, which are the big advertiser front-facing stuff. And Clinton was just recently named the official host of ESPN Daily, and so it's a big night for him, but he was going to take some time to come on the show since I'm not here tomorrow, and normally he joins us on Fridays. And so I was balancing that. I was also balancing being Uber Bay, as my wife coined it. She is currently at the White House with the Las Vegas Aces as Alicia's +1, as the Aces are in town to celebrate their White House celebration. All of this is public knowledge, so I'm not spilling any secrets here. Including, I guess, the part where my wife is there because she Instagrammed about it. And so I was balancing trying to drive her and tape with Clinton. I was also a guest on another non-media, a fitnessy sports podcast that I was trying to do that. And all the while, I'm just fidgeting with my hard drive, trying to get it to go. And I felt like I was having a full-on mental breakdown, Anthony. Just nothing, all this stuff that I wanted to happen. Keyshawn, hey, sorry, going to have to check the calendar. Clinton, hey, yeah, I can do the show. Unless Keyshawn can do it, then you don't need me. Keyshawn can't? Nope, Keyshawn can't. Okay, well, then I can do this time. Oh, I can't do that time. Oh, well, I guess we're just then. And all the while, I just wanted to get our videos up from yesterday's show. And nothing.
Couldn't catch a break, man.
What is it that you say?
It's not the life you deserve, Craig.
No, this is not the life I deserve. So, alas, that's where we are mentally coming into the show. Also, Anthony, do we have a 6 o'clock hour planned?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Let me pull up the rundown then. So I have MVP discussion.
Oh, yeah.
We also have
Nikola Jokic wins the MVP, and some people are really upset about it. By the way,
the outrage on Twitter yesterday, people, I don't know, man.
Look, here's the short version of the discussion. Do people know it's a regular season award?
Yeah, it is a regular season award, but you also just got to look at Jaren Jackson. He was on the show with Shaq yesterday in NBA TNT.
Mm-hmm.
His definition, and I think that's more so like probably what we got to get to. What is your definition of MVP per se? His definition was best player on the best team.
Right, but that's not what it stands for. And that's not an agreed upon definition.
That. Yeah.
It's like most valuable player.
Yeah.
Well, they have all kinds of metrics that determine value. And Nikola Jokic is the number one guy in all of them.
I don't know the metrics thing.
Your WAR, like wins over replacement type of metrics. Like he's the most efficient player of the league. I do think there were some pretty nasty on-off splits. Like when he's on the court, the Nuggets are the best team in the league. When he's off the court, they're like one of the worst. So like those things seem to, when you talk about value, things seem to be pretty important. But I also think that's unfair to a guy like Shea because, and I'll try to get some of these numbers ready for when we talk about this. But like for a guy like Shea, is it his fault that he's got other good players around him that can, the discrepancy isn't as big?
Yeah, that's my thing. I don't think the discrepancy should have been that big. But also, if you look at the roster makeup of what the Nuggets have, granted they don't have another All-Star, but they have a lot of good role players. You think about the Thunder, you're not thinking about the Aaron Wiggins of the world. You just found out about Jalen Williams and his emergence this season. Who else they have? They have Chet. They do have Chet.
That's a big by the way.
Okay, but I'm just saying that they have Jamal Murray, they have Aaron Gordon, they have.
Also, Jamal's never been an All-Star. That's crazy.
No, he's never been an All-Star. So I think that's cool, but I think you also just got to look at the roster makeup and what Shea did out in the West with that young of a team.
But they also, it's not like they, the Nuggets were the 7 seed. They were the 2 seed. They should have been the 1 seed if they had screwed up against the Spurs in Game 81.
Yeah. But I don't know, man.
Seems relevant. Well, I don't know. Whatever.
I like Shea for the award. That's who I was.
I can sense that.
Yes.
I think we'll have a feistier, fuller discussion at 6 o'clock.
We also have Bleacher Report put out
other QB
their
rankings.
QB rank. Man, they have Dak Prescott 4.
Yeah,
and I don't like it at all.
I think it's time for a Dak Prescott discussion because I was listening to the Athletic Football Show earlier in the week, and they did their quarterback draft, and Dak went way higher in that than I thought. And these are a bunch of guys that like I really respect when it comes to quarterbacks, and so I need to. We're gonna have a Dak Prescott discussion.
Okay.
Are we underrating Dak Prescott? But are they overrating? Can both be true? We'll do that coming up in the 6 o'clock hour, and then I guess we'll look at the NBA games tonight. So we'll do all that coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. 5 o'clock hour, you get some Take Command. It's also a feisty version of Never Read the Comments today at 5:30. Looking forward to that. But next, Mike Garafolo joins us to talk about the latest going on NFL-wide here on The Hoffman Show. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. And it's our pleasure to welcome back to the show our pal Mike Garafolo from the NFL Network. You can watch The Insiders. You can watch, basically, if you watch NFL Network, you're going to see Mike. That's how it goes. Mike, what's up, dude? How are you?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Always appreciate your time. I know you're super busy, except for those, 38 seconds of the year where the NFL is not on fire. So I'm glad we could find, like 35 of those seconds here in mid-May.
There you go. Happy to share them with you.
So I want to talk about the Commanders and kind of how what their first couple of months here under Adam Peters has been received around the league here in a few. But the biggest story in the league to me right now, the most interesting story, is what's going on in New England. And this is a time of year for folks that in the audience who may not know, where a lot of movement happens on the scouting side of organizations post-draft. But typically, a general manager move happens more along a timeline where Adam Peters was hired for Washington and most others were, either late December or early in January. So what's going on in New England that they're now embarking on some kind of general manager search just days after they used the number 3 overall pick on what they hope to be their franchise quarterback of the future?
Well, when they made the decision to go with Elliott Wolf, there was talk of did they basically duck the Rooney Rule by giving him control over personnel but not giving him a GM title. So to kind of justify that and go through the process, they've got to do it the way that things are usually done. So the fact that they let him run the process, they gave him full control, they allowed him to run the draft and free agency. He basically was their general manager, and now they're going through the process of hiring an actual GM and conducting the interviews, and again, having to fulfill that Rooney Rule requirement, which means 2 minority candidates, the same thing that everybody, including the Commanders, has to go through when they usually do this stuff back in January.
So what kind of power then will the person in New England have, and who is lining up to take that job if they know that Elliott Wolf is the one really in charge?
Yeah, I mean, that's why you've had some guys that have turned down the interview because they feel like it's just basically to fulfill the requirement. And it's a double-edged sword sometimes. It's like you want to be able to go through the process and show that you're a person that teams are interested in talking to, but you also don't want to just serve yourself up knowing that how could this guy have run free agency, run the draft, gotten himself a franchise quarterback, which Robert Kraft wanted to happen, and then not get the full-time job, right? So that's kind of why it's sort of an odd process in some ways. We've seen this happen before. I mean, I remember way back when Andy Reid got the job with the Chiefs and everybody knew it was going to be John Dorsey, and guys were going on interviews, and it was like, well, why are we even doing this? Because we know it's already been reported, and the Chiefs are like, no, we're going to go through the process. Don't worry, which is kind of what the Patriots are doing now. But everybody expects us to land on Elliott Wolf again, especially after he accomplished everything he needed to accomplish in the last 5 months or so leading up to this point of the process.
And then lastly, then on that topic, Mike, is the league just going to let that happen, or are the Patriots potentially in some kind of hot water here?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. If the league was going to step in and do something, you think it would have been before this point now. And again, the Fritz Pollard Alliance over the years has, which is the alliance to promote and encourage minority hirings, over the years has, when it comes to these, said, well, look, we got to sort of play along here. We've got to sort of continue with the process because we appreciate the fact that, minority offerings or interviews, are being offered up here. So we want to kind of continue to do that while also understanding we've got to have some pushback where you basically hired a GM and you let him be a GM without going through the process. So they've been, I haven't seen anything yet from them on this one. Maybe they want to kind of go through the process and see what happens to that point. But again, it all points toward Elliott Wolf, and I haven't heard anything with regard to the NFL stepping in and saying, well, you violated this or that or whatever.
Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, with us here on the Hoffman Show. So Adam Peters, obviously pretty widely well reviewed so far in terms of the job that he's done with the Commanders from everybody that's speaking about things publicly. As you talk to folks around the league and Washington comes up, what's the vibe on what Peters and Quinn have accomplished here in their first, 5 months on the job?
Yeah, I mean, they put themselves in position to be successful both in the short term and in the long term. I mean, the reviews, and, granted, I like to wait 3 years before you start to grade drafts, but
Sure.
business that we're in. But the reviews on the draft are they just absolutely knocked it out of the park. And then what they did in free agency was, again, give themselves guys that they feel like can contribute right away and also be the bridge to the future in some cases as well. Guys that can help lay the groundwork for the kind of work ethic and the kind of football that you're trying to play there. So just a lot of positive reviews from folks around the league with what they've done. It should be a competitive division. I mean, I would say the Giants are going to be better, but I thought that last year, so I guess the jury's out until we finally see the Giants actually be better. But you know what the Eagles are going to do. You know what the Cowboys are going to do. The question is, can Washington just kind of be a spoiler this year, or can they win themselves enough games to kind of get themselves in the mix? I see them as at least around a 500 team, particularly with an experienced head coach that you think would allow this team to kind of hit the ground running.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to depend on how well the defense plays and what kind of burden is on whoever they put at quarterback, and presuming that's going to be Jaden sooner rather than later. And then obviously what they get from that position always. When it comes to Daniels, I'm curious for someone who's as plugged in as you are, which is as plugged in as anybody. We kind of entered, I think those of us that cover the league year round, we entered January in this draft process being like, all right, Caleb Williams, Drake May, then Jaden Daniels, and on down the list. And fairly quickly, it seemed like people were like, no, Daniels is right up there. It's a potential number 2. When did that start to change for you from just kind of this notion we'd had for a year and a half that it was Williams, May, and then everybody else, that Jaden Daniels not only was going to be in that mix, but that he seemed to be most of the league's favored number 2 quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, he played himself into it. I remember years ago, the guy that won the Heisman Trophy wasn't necessarily a high draft pick or a highly touted NFL prospect. But recently it seems like these guys that wind up winning the award are thrusting themselves right into the conversation for the top pick or around the top pick. So again, I think that's more with the college aspect of things, the college offenses, being something that we've seen translate to the NFL level more. So the guys that are running those systems are now the guys that are basically going to fit into the NFL a lot better. So from Baker Mayfield to Kyler to Burrow to all these guys that have won it, at Bryce Young, who went first overall, it's now becoming that bridge. So you play yourself into that. So throughout the course of the season, and honestly, what I saw from him, I was like, damn, this guy's impressive. It might even be my number 1, because at the time you kind of get sucked into the results with what happened at USC with Caleb, but there was more that went into that than just Caleb himself. And, I think through the draft process, the combine, his pro day, even after he was selected, you saw the demeanor from Caleb, and you're like, all right, that's a guy I can kind of rally behind. So I understand where the Bears are coming from with the number 1 overall pick. But just watching Jaden last year and what I saw on the field, that dude's electric, and you could see that translating, particularly in Cliff Kingsbury's offense.
Yeah, no doubt. What's your favorite Jaden Daniels story or anecdote you picked up throughout the process?
I think it was that moment of where we thought that visit was not great, and what's going to wind up happening after that, the rumblings of, it didn't go great, and he's going to maybe make it be clear that, he doesn't want to be in Washington. And the more I understood of it, the more that the kid was just chill and just kind of rolling with it, and just like, hey, it's a draft process. I did what I can. Wherever I wind up being selected, I'm happy to go there. I'm going to be enthused to go there. And that the vibe from him on that visit, from the Topgolf thing all the way through the point where he did, from my understanding, ask Adam Peters, why did you bring in all the quarterbacks at once? And my understanding was Adam Peters told him, I'm glad you asked that question, and gave him an answer, which that person that told me that said, yeah, I'm not going to give you the answer that Adam Peters gave him, but we could all kind of parse through the information and realize it was, let's see them all together. Let's see them in their environment. Let's see who can kind of be the alpha male or the guy that people gravitate to. And, it seems like that whole visit, much as some folks started to make it seem like it was kind of weird, was actually a good thing. It was actually solidifying things for Washington.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll ask you real quick on the way out here, Mike, is about that visit. Like, I feel like there's some things we learn about, and often, obviously, for us, it's the NFL, but sports in general, and the way business is done, that we hear it sometimes from the outside, and we're like, what is that? And then the more you either think about it or the more you learn about it, you realize, no, that's just the way things are done. And as this visit goes, we hear like, oh, no, they did this in New England. They did this in San Francisco. Like a lot of teams do varieties of this, the recruiting trip style visit. Is this something that in your years of covering the league that you'd heard of before? Or is this something you kind of learned was more normal or at least happening more than we'd heard about it after things kind of bubbled up and blew over with this quarterback version of it?
Yeah, well, yeah, but you don't often see it when it comes to the top quarterback.
Sure.
I think that was the thing that was different that really threw people for a loop. And I remember, and listen, it can go the wrong way. Who the heck was the kid that? Oh my God, N'Keal Harry. The Patriots drafted N'Keal Harry because at lunchtime, not just because of this, but this is a factor from what I was told. At lunchtime, all the kids sat together, all the prospects sat together, except for N'Keal, and he sat on his own, and he was flipping through some kind of playbook or something that they gave him, because they kind of give you stuff during the visit and then see if you can regurgitate it back. So they, oh, look at him, he's in there, he's studying the playbook. He didn't want to be part of all that camaraderie over there because he was intent on, digging in. Turns out it was more like he's I don't want to say a loner, but the kind of guy who he wanted to be away from that scene right there and be on his own, and he was flipping through the things. That's all he had in front of him or whatever. So it wasn't necessarily a indication that this kid dives into the playbook and he's all about the X's and O's and grinding and all this stuff. He wanted his personality. He wanted it. So sometimes you can misread this stuff, But again, it's rare to see it with some of the top quarterbacks. That's
actually a hilarious story because it perfectly encapsulates why so many people have come out, especially recently, of New England miserable. And it's like, no, you want the guys that are together having fun. That's the point of the group visit, not the guy who hasn't learned the things he should have and is studying at the lunch table when the test is in whatever period comes after lunch. Anyway, Mike Garafolo, you can catch him, NFL Network, The Insiders, weekdays, and all their other shows. Great NFL insider. Mike, always appreciate your time, man, and I'm sure I'll run into you at some point down the line during, whether it's spring ball or somewhere in the season.
You got it. Thanks, Greg.
You got it. It's Mike Garafolo with us here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, the officiating in Knicks Pacers has been, I mean, if you ask Rick Carlisle, it's been even worse than the reality. But the reality is it's been real bad. And this is a continuation of a trend seemingly across pro sports in some of the biggest platforms that officials are making big-time calls in big-time moments the wrong way. Is that affecting the way we actually watch and enjoy sports? We'll discuss over the next half hour here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Where you can leave your comments, and we will read them. Never read the comments coming up in an hour. I literally just had to, this is a comment that I just left in the commercial break on a back and forth I've been having, the start of which we will cover in Never Read the Comments. But I told this dude, you're the dude who isn't allowed to talk in the barbershop, but thanks for keeping on showing up.
Oh, my goodness. Just sit back, man.
Hey, nobody asked you. Your hair will be cut in 30 minutes. Until then, relax.
He buttoning grown folks conversation, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, ain't nobody asked you. It's the kind of dude who, like, when they see him get out of his car in the parking lot, and he comes every day. Gets his hair cut once a month, maybe. He gets a little trim. But see him get out of the parking, or his car in the parking lot, and you're like, oh, hell. Insert name here is coming. Yep. This great conversation we're having is about to be derailed by insert name here. That's how you know I've actually been to black barbershops.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you want to stick with what we're going to do here, or do we get to the breaking news? I think we get to the breaking news real quick.
Let's get it.
I don't have the sounder up right now, but that's fine. The Suns have fired Frank Vogel, the former champion coach with the Lakers. Was fired after a couple of years there, after he was fired for a couple of years at the Magic, after he had a really good run in Indiana, is fired after 1 year in Phoenix. And I just don't get it. Like, clearly there's something about Vogel. Like, when you go 2 years in multiple stops, like, or less than 2 years, as much as I think he's a really good basketball coach, I'm like, all right, he's probably not faultless here. But the Suns are just a disaster. And I hate that coaches sometimes just get fired because they can't fire the players and the owners won't fire themselves. And ultimately, that's what happened to Frank Vogel here. Like, Frank Vogel's a fine basketball coach. Is he the best basketball coach in the league? Maybe not. Definitely not. Like, that guy's name's Eric Spoelstra. But is he the best basketball coach in the league? No. Is he a perfectly good basketball coach who probably deserves, is he one of the best 30 NBA coaches in the planet? Yeah, probably. Is it possible in 1 year to be great and build something with a bunch of pieces that don't fit? Probably not. But that's my thing is, like, what do you, Phoenix made disastrous roster decisions, mainly in thanks to their owner, Matt Ishbia, who thinks that he's a basketball guy and isn't. He's a mortgage guy who rips people off. If you've listened to some of the reporting or read some of the reporting about how he runs his mortgage business, man, it's not good. And so if they've got this rich dude who is, by the way, consulting with his best friend and childhood idol, Isaiah Thomas, on all these decisions, a dude who the NBA is begging him not to hire for real, and all of a sudden Frank Vogel's got to get fired for that? I mean, I'm sure the check's nice. I'll say that. What did Frank Vogel sign? Frank Vogel contract. Is he getting triple paid right now? No, let's see. Last year, Vogel signed a 5-year, $31 million contract with the Suns. They let him go after 1 year.
It's getting ridiculous, Craig. It is getting ridiculous. What you just mentioned about Matt Ishbia, I think you also got to take a look at James Jones as well. I'm not going to lie, though. A couple of years ago when James Jones was making all these moves, everybody was singing their praises.
Looked like he was cooking.
Exactly.
I mean, James Jones comes out of that Miami, like, he spent a lot of time down there. He's got the nickname Champ for a reason.
Yep.
And, like, he understands what makes good teams. I don't think these are James Jones moves.
You think them trading for Bradley Beal was more so a James Jones or Matt Ishbia?
Think about it. The Durant deal was on the table for Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Is it not last summer? 2 summers ago, right?
2 summers ago.
Yeah, 2 summers ago. Under the old owner, Robert Sarver, who sucked for off-the-court reasons, right? But Sarver was like, nah, we're not doing this. And Jones clearly did not lobby to be like, no, we've got to do this, right?
Yeah.
James Jones, I think, was probably advising Sarver and in general, this is not a good deal. Giving up Mikal Bridges, all like as much future draft capital as you basically were allowed to in one trade. Who else they give up? They gave up like another young player, I think.
Cam Johnson.
Yeah, Cam Johnson.
Yep.
Like
They gave up their whole bench.
they gave up their whole bench, which had just helped them go to the finals to get Kevin or to try to trade for Kevin Durant. And this is when they had Chris Paul, and they didn't know that Chris Paul was probably done at that point, right? It's coming off the finals. And Brooklyn was like, we ain't really that interested. And this is when KD is like trying to bust his way out, and then they made nice, and then eventually things turned when Kyrie went sideways, right? So this is the summer before all of that goes down in Brooklyn, when KD's like throwing a little hissy fit to try to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And the Suns are like, nah, we're good. Then in the as the trade deadline approaches, now Matt Ishbia owns the team. And they make the same deal even though they have all the leverage on the Nets. And I realize the Nets could have just been like, well, fine, we'll keep Durant, we'll play this out and see what happens this summer. So like it wasn't all or nothing in terms of that. But they ultimately decided when Ishbia got there that the same deal that was on the table was worth making.
Yeah, I
think it's Matt Ishbia.
Okay, I mean, well, if it is Matt Ishbia, he has to, put the blame somewhere because he definitely didn't put it on himself when he spoke a couple of weeks ago.
No, he thinks, well, that's also the problem, right?
Exactly.
Is like, because this is Matt Ishbia and because James Jones executed what Matt Ishbia wanted, then he thinks he said it.
Yeah.
The roster's great. Well, if the roster's great, then it's not the roster's fault. It's not the person who constructed the roster's fault. It's got to be the coach's fault. And at that point, this is the obvious outcome that we should have seen the second those words came out of Matt Ishbia's mouth. But also sometimes, like, it's sports' fault, right? Like, this is I think the bigger picture. Like, if you want to look at Phoenix in particular, like, they've got some very specific issues. But, like, generally speaking, there's just no patience from way too many owners and way too many fans. And I think that's related because I think a lot of fans act like owners. Or a lot of owners, act like fans. Fans wish they could act like owners. But a lot of owners are just big fans. They don't actually know anything about the sport. They actually don't know what it means to drop, or to build a team over time, to have the patience. They just think that we can shortcut some moves and assemble a roster piece by piece. And if it doesn't work in year one, then... But look at the teams that have won recently. The Nuggets were a project over time that Stan Kroenke, their GM, allowed Tim Connolly to build. Connolly ultimately left, and now he's in Minnesota, and look what he's built in 2 or 3 years there. It doesn't have to take forever, but you have to have some patience with your core. And your staff, you have to get the hire right on the front end. Like there was a lot of pressure in Denver to fire Mike Malone. It was pretty clear Mike Malone was an awesome coach. Like, the Kings screwed up. The Kings had Mike Malone, and they fired him like idiots because that's what the Kings do. They got lucky then that they found a trade that actually wound up kind of working for all sides, but they get De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, or the Fox they draft, and then they get Sabonis in the Halliburton trade, which in hindsight, you're like, did you get the second best player in that deal? Maybe, but I don't know that Fox is Fox if Halliburton's still there. And I don't think Halliburton's Halliburton if he's still having to play off De'Aaron Fox. They're too similar of players, so they got, a really good compliment to De'Aaron. But they had Mike Malone to make it all work, and they screwed it up. And Denver's like, okay, fine, we'll take one of the best coaches in the league. And Denver goes and wins a championship. Milwaukee a couple years ago, like, they could have blown that core up sooner. They didn't. They let Middleton, Holiday, and Giannis cook, knowing that, like, hey, if we're winning 60 games, we're probably pretty good. Eventually, we're gonna come through in the playoffs. The Lakers in the bubble are the exception. The Warriors were a homegrown, home-cooked team. The Spurs were a homegrown, home-cooked team. Like, look at who wins. There are potential shortcuts, right? Even the Raptors, I would say, yes, Kawhi was the most important piece, but a lot of that team was homegrown, and Kawhi fit their culture. And teams just don't have, like, it's one thing to, if you are if you're the Raptors are actually the perfect example, right? The Raptors build this core around Lowry and DeRozan, and they rise up. They're the number 1 seed, and they get curb stomped by LeBron somewhere in the playoffs every single year. It didn't matter whether the Cavs were the 2 seed, the 1 seed, the 4 seed, the whatever. They were going to face the Raptors, and LeBron was going to embarrass him. He was their daddy. And eventually you just go, if you're Masai, you go, this ain't good enough. We got to try something else. Mm-hmm. And I respect them for that, for being like, hey, we gave it our legitimate shot, and it didn't work out. But what they didn't do is, after getting beat once, try not to improve and run it back with keeping what works. But the Suns are like, they make the finals once, they blow up half the team. They chase a star. Does the star fit? Doesn't matter. We got Kevin Durant. Hey, we got Bradley Beal. He's made an all-star team. What can we give away? And by the way, he's got the worst contract in the league. And now they fire the coach after 1 year? Like, in some ways, ready to make some people upset here, this is an offshoot of the Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix thing. If you want to make some of these moves, fine. To make them all together is nuts. It's not like Frank Vogel, they didn't know what he was a year ago. All the same dudes hired him. Frank Vogel didn't change who he was in a year. If you thought he was the right dude last year, why are you firing him now after you gave him $31 million? Mm-hmm. I don't get it.
Do you think we're at the end of an era where we have these coaches that have been with franchises? I mean, Pop, he's been with the Spurs for super long time.
No.
Eric Spoelstra, I think he's the closest.
No, because I think there will always be good organizations and bad organizations, because there's good and bad owners. Good ownership will find the right guy, go through good processes, identify talent, and then let that talent cook for a long time. Irrational, impatient ownership, a.k.a. bad ownership, a la Matt Ishbia, will fire a coach every other year and wonder why he can't build anything.
But the Lakers, I think they had sustained success for periods of time with, the Phil Jacksons of the world.
Yeah, but I mean, Phil, it's hard at the end. I mean, I would also argue the Lakers are making mistakes.
Yeah, they are.
Right? Like,
yes.
So you can't look at what they're doing and be like, oh, well, we're reaching the end of an era, when we're like, they're doing it wrong. They should do the thing that we say they should be doing. Yeah. So, like, this is what I think is going to happen with the Wizards. Like, I would anticipate whoever gets hired by the Wizards, especially if it's a young and up-and-coming coach, that coach is going to have, as long as they're success, like, they're going to have a 3 to 5 year run at least. And if they're successful, that coach is going to be here for hopefully a decade. Okay. Like, they're going to try to have the patience. I mean, we know Ted will be patient, but Winger and Dawkins look at it. Yeah. And actually, I don't know if I'll be able to pull the audio quickly in the break, but like Mitch Rails, I mentioned a podcast like last week, 2 weeks ago, that he gave this big long interview, and I finally finished it today. And I got to the part where he talked about the Commanders, and listening to Mitch Rails talk about success reminded me why I have so much faith for the Commanders. And I think a lot of the things he talks about have a lot of crossover to the Wizards. So we can talk about that. We'll get back to the officiating stuff later, but reacting to the breaking news that the Suns have fired Frank Vogel next on the Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, and we are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. As I reach over to try to grab this keyboard here. I got to work this top computer, Ant. I just realized I got to do something. Got to download something. It's for the show. Not just like goofing off over here. I got to turn sideways to get this process going. I also don't know where the mouse is for this computer. We're highly organized. We're an efficient machine here on the Team 980. Take command coming at you in just a little bit. A little more insight on some of the biggest surprises in the draft, the Commanders draft class, from our guy Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus. All right, don't mock me, Anthony. I saw that.
Well, I knew you were going to say focus, so I just tried to beat you to it by saying focus.
Yeah, I see you mouthing my words. People are going to think the show is scripted. What am I going to say next? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Dang.
That's what I thought.
I thought you were going to say see.
Off script. Just kidding. There is no script. See, we sometimes react to breaking news. This wasn't in the script. We got Frank Vogel getting let go by the Phoenix Suns just 1 year into his coaching tenure out there in the desert. And I just think it's a bad job of hiring by Matt Ishbia and the group out there in charge. And I was listening to a podcast with Mitchell Rales, the Art of Investing podcast. Rales gave his first ever, as far as I know, like sit-down, long-form interview. And at the end, he talks about the Commanders and what they're doing and how they focus on getting to know people and getting to understand processes and like really soliciting feedback and listening to the right people. He told a story about how when he and Josh Harris got there, one of the things they did was they would sit down with like 10 to 12 players at a time and have lunch and just be like, what can we do that's better? And it was everything from like the shampoo and the shower suck to like, hey, it really is not very fun when we have home games and there's a bunch of visiting fans here. Like, how do we get we would like our fans to be our fans at FedEx at the time. Now it would be Commanders Field in Landover. And so there's like that human element of it. And he talked about how, you know, when they think about how they build the organization, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn fit their vision. And like, if I were to ask you what the vision of the Phoenix Suns is, or better yet, Ant, if I were to ask Matt Ishbia what the vision of the Phoenix Suns is, he'd probably say something stupid like winning. Like, you can just say winning and win. And again, like, winning is a worthy goal. It's not about being kumbaya together and everyone having a great time. It's professional sports. The goal is to win. But just saying you want to win isn't good enough. Like, you have to have a strategic plan to achieve success. And I just think that organization, like, that ultimately is the Dan Snyder of it all with a guy like Ishbia and some of these other owners in sports, is because they don't have a strategic vision, because they don't have a plan that they're trying to achieve, they can't fulfill that plan. You can't chase something when you don't have a roadmap. You just throw darts and hope something hits. And look, if you're the Lakers, for instance, you hit every once in a while because LeBron James comes and plays for your basketball team and he erases all the other nonsense that you do. But overall, like, I look at someone like the Suns as a pretty rudderless ship that needs to be way better at understanding like what the North Star is that they're going towards, and stop thinking that it's just a Larry O'Brien trophy that if you throw some darts at a wall that eventually you're going to hit one.
Yeah, it's not just the Suns, man. It's so many more of these other teams that trying to put together these super teams. Like, super teams, as we're watching now, they aren't the way to go right now. You got the Nuggets, one, I guess, all-star. You got the Timberwolves, couple all-stars, but for the most part, like, we don't have these guys taking up all the cap. We have well-rounded teams, and I just think the Suns, the way they put their team together, they didn't have any point guard. They don't have any rim protection.
No.
You got guys like Bradley
Their
Beal
whole
that's
thing was like,
missing.
we're just going to have stars and they're going to be great. It's
Yeah.
like, that's
It's
not a
gonna
good
work.
plan.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be an up-tempo. We want to be a defensive first. We want to be – it's like, I don't know. We're going to give the ball to Durant, Beal, and Booker, and they'll be awesome basketball players. And Vogel probably was like, no, we got to play a certain way and whatever. And then he gets fired.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. And that's the thing I think gives me hope for the Wizards, by the way. Like, when you look at the Timberwolves and how they've built it, when you look at the Thunder and how they built it, like, people knew Chet was awesome, but there was some risk there. I think when you look at, Shea, the acquisition, no one knew he was going to be this good. Nobody knew Jokic was going to be that good in Denver. Nobody knew that Anthony Edwards, even though we went 1-1 overall, like, nobody was like, yeah, that dude's going to be the best player in the league. And it looks like he's on that path. But there's certain things that they hunted, right? Like, Tim Connolly built the Timberwolves to try to beat the team that he built in Denver. He's like, in order to beat them, we need size, wingspan, length, and athleticism. And by the way, the folks in Oklahoma City thought the same thing. They're like, all right, who are we trying to beat? What is the current, like, the Nuggets are zigging and they're currently the best. When it's time for the zag to hit, are we the team to hit it? Okay, we're going to go back to size, length, athleticism. And, like, Shea was probably a very pointed acquisition in that way. Chet, like, with his length and his shooting, like, that was something that they wanted. The Gobert trade was so panned. And I was definitely one of the people that did it. I was like, I remember when there was talk about maybe Connolly leaving Minnesota to come here. And I was like, okay, well, how do you explain hiring the guy who made the Gobert trade? And everyone was kind of like, yeah, you're just going to have to look past that one. That was a mistake, but he's really good otherwise. And now it's like, was that Gobert trade genius? Because that could be the thing that helps them win a championship. Because they have so much length and they have such an identity of a defensive prowess that he's central to. And they saw more for Gobert and helped him get to a new level than he was ever going to reach in Utah. And they had the patience to allow that to play out. So I think all of that stuff goes into it, but it starts with an ownership group with patience. And, for the Commanders, for the Wizards, like, those are the kinds of things that give you hope, far more than the rosters at the current moment, which definitely have a long way to go. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when we get back, more on the Commanders via Take Command, more of our conversation with me, Logan, and Pro Football Focus's Trevor Sikkema.
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
What's up? What's happening? Welcome into the Take Command podcast. Craig Hoffman here, Logan Paulsen there, and with us for the entirety of the show today, Pro Football Focus is Trevor Sikkema. Trevor, what's up, dude?
Good to be with you, fellas. You saying the name of the podcast out loud made me think, what was the podcast named before they were the Commanders, right? I mean, like when they were like deciding what the team name was going to be, were you guys just in like the ultimate limbo of whatever the podcast is going to be? I'm just curious. Because Take Command's a great name, but obviously, you know, it couldn't have been around that.
So this is actually a funny story. So Logan and I started a couple months after they changed to Commanders. Okay. So like the pod was not in a Washington football, which like our buddy JP Finley, for instance, they changed from like the Washington football talk podcast to now they're like the Beltway football talk. Like they've changed iterations of names 3 or 4 times. For us though, which I feel like I can definitely tell this story now. Part of the reason the podcast was named Take Command is because when they changed to Commanders, that was kind of the team hashtag. And we're like, well, we can take advantage of that. They don't have a trademark on the hashtag. And they just changed it to Raise Hail. They're kind of entering the next phase here. And so our plan, I don't know whether it's expired. I don't know whether people will still use it. I don't know whether it ever actually worked, but that's how the podcast was named. Not my call, not Logan's call. Someone above us made that decision.
I think Raise Hail is actually like a fun thing to say out loud, but the reason why I just laughed is because every single time I hear the phrase Raise Hail, being in North Carolina where I am, I can only say the words praise Dale afterwards for Dale Earnhardt. So it's like, it's just an immediate one after the other. So that's why I laugh. So like Raise Hail, like I said, is actually like kind of like intimidating and, you know, like it's kind of a good hashtag, but I can only think of Raise Hail, praise Dale.
And of course, Junior, a huge Washington football fan.
It's true.
There you go.
Work.
Full circle.
Wow.
Full circle.
There we
What
go.
do you know? What do you know? Believe it or not, that's not what we're going to talk about on the rest of the podcast.
Could be.
Coming up, Drew. Good call, Trevor. 30 minutes or so from now, we're going to hit a couple things first. But one of the things I've really been thinking a lot about, and I know Logan has as well, is kind of this disconnect between the draft community, if you will, who was and still is very high on Drake May versus the NFL. It seems by the end of the process was very, very high on Jaden Daniels and kind of why that is. And so we're going to explore that with Trevor coming up a little bit later in the show. But we want to start league wide and the surprises of the draft. So Trevor, if I say, what's the biggest surprise of the NFL draft to you? I think probably Michael Penix comes to mind. But is there anybody else that even comes close?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the Penix selection. There's just for so many reasons, it was a massive surprise. You know, I think of the rest of were there any like major quarterback drafts that were like overdrafted? No, not really. Like even the Bo Nix selection, like I understand why they took him at 12. 5 quarterbacks had already gone off the board. What are they going to do? Get a little bit cute, pick up 1 or 2 4th-round picks just to maybe not get the quarterback that they really, really need on that roster. So I think it just has to be Penix, because I'm trying to think in my head. The corners going a little bit later was sort of surprising to me. Pass rushers a little bit later, but we thought that was possible. Maybe Brock Bowers falling out of the top 10. But again, for how many quarterbacks went in the top 12, that's half the top 12 right there. So you're losing a lot of spots. You do those wide receivers, we're going to be another 3. So we're just running out of places for Brock Bowers to eventually go. So the number one surprise to me just has to be Michael Penix and what the Falcons were doing. And it's not even necessarily wow, they took this guy really early. It was the team building aspect of it. Like, that's the big surprise here. We're one-upping the Aaron Rodgers situation, the Jordan Love situation. Like, we're taking that to an insane degree, because those guys late first round, picked in the 20s. Like, you're taking this guy number 8 overall, and then the general manager comes up after the draft, and Terry Fontenot says, yeah, I mean, the best case scenario, Penix doesn't have to play for 4 to 5 years. Buddy, 4 to 5 years? You just wasted the whole rookie contract with this guy. And that's part of what makes drafting a quarterback so valuable. Yeah, you want to nail it. And if you nail it and he's great, 4 or 5 years from now, let's say he takes over and he plays another 10 years. Sure, that's a reality that exists where this was a success. But unfortunately, there's just much more likely paths of this pick not really working out the way that you want it to. And it just, the aggressiveness of how they wanted to go after the quarterback position this offseason is fascinating. And then the level of luxury pick this was. I don't know if this has ever been duplicated in NFL history, especially for this position. Because you look at Terry Fontenot and his draft history, okay, he drafted a tight end at 4. He drafted a running back at 8. He drafted a wide receiver at 8, I think, when he didn't really need to. And now you're drafting a quarterback that is absolutely not going to play for you unless things get really bad financially with the investment that you made in Kirk Cousins. It's just, man, that has to be the surprise of the draft. And there weren't too many that were even close to that, just because of, the points that I made.
So I think probably one of the reasons that they did that is that they had a really high grade on him. Is there a world where you see him as being the best graded quarterback, or do you just think that's like a crazy reach? I know there's a lot of people that say, like I had him here or whatever, but it ultimately comes down to like where the Falcons had him. And like, do you understand the perspective that he could have been the best quarterback on their board at 8?
At 8, certainly. Yes, totally believe that. I can absolutely believe a world where Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, they're already off the board. They, no question about it, could have had Michael Penix above J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix. I would even believe them having Michael Penix second best quarterback in this class. Now, if you had him over Caleb, that's something where I go, okay, now I just got to question a lot of the other, how you kind of like see the game and how you see these players. Because I think it's hard to watch Caleb Williams unless you just absolutely don't believe that he could become more of a controlled player at the NFL level. Then Caleb basically does everything better than Penix, is much younger and doesn't have the injury history. So that would be a very, very tough sell to me. But yeah, to answer your question, of course, I can absolutely believe that they would have him ranked there, because here's the thing too, when it comes to this pick, it's not that it's logicless. It's not that, right, this is the worst pick of all time, there's no way this works out, or there's no defending it. No. That's not true either. There is logic to it. You can hear it. You can get to that point of how they wanted to draft these players. But again, I think that there are more likely realities where this does not work out the way that you want it to. The return on investment is not as good as what you think it is going to be. So yeah, when I watch Michael Penix over the last 2 years, he's a gunslinger, man. We saw it this past year. He was a Heisman Trophy finalist. He got to a national championship. So what he does as a pocket passer with a massive arm and just kind of that fearless passing mentality, there's no question that a lot of organizations would gravitate toward that in the draft. But he doesn't exactly have the best ball placement out there. He's a little bit older. He's got that injury history to him. Is he ever going to be that pinpoint accurate quarterback that you need him to be at the NFL level? Like, the crazy thing to me is that the Falcons talk about Michael Penix as if in 2 years, when he's ideally, when he starts for the first time, it's like he can be good to go. Like we're going to have like an all-pro quarterback like right away. But it's like, I don't know if that's going to be the case. Like I still think that he's got some learning and growing to do and some consistencies to really clean up before he gets to that level at the NFL. So, yeah, that's kind of a long-winded answer to that question.
Yeah, I think Logan too. We obviously spent a lot of time on this last week, and then we listened to the Move the Six pod, and Daniel Jeremiah brought up a great point about this that we hadn't even talked about, which is the locker room dynamics. When you talk about Rodgers, for instance, in Green Bay, or Favre in Green Bay, when Rodgers was drafted, like those guys had equity. Like Kirk Cousins is going to walk into that building for the first time, and it's like, hey, we've already drafted your replacement. And so there's just so many ways in which this feels incredibly hopeful and optimistic to work out and thread the needle in the way the Falcons want to, versus I think a lot more logical picks that could have been made at that point in the draft, or decisions if they wanted to trade out if there were opportunities to do so. And I think there's been some leak calls of like the Jets and others calling Fondo and inquiring about 8. So definitely seemed like it could have been on the board. Logan, did you have a big surprise, whether first round or later in the draft, that you wanted to hit on as we talk about our surprises of the draft?
No, just to kind of piggyback on the Atlanta Falcons thing, like I think they were just kind of marching to the beat of their own drum. You know, they draft Rukaroro with their second pick in the draft, and like I don't know where Trevor had him, but I didn't have him that high. I think he's a good player, but I thought he's kind of a later second round, early third round player. But the thing, you know, I wanted to ask Trevor honestly is like, did you have obviously surprises, but did you have any selections where you're like, man, that is a perfect. That it couldn't have got any better for this team. Like kind of perfect fits. Maybe it's for receivers. Maybe it's for defensive linemen. Again, because you're the draft expert, so let's get the insight on that.
Yeah. So look, I was trying to tell Chargers fans for a couple of weeks leading up to the draft, your team's best draft strategy is to take an offensive lineman in the first round. Whether it was at 5 or whether it was trading back and still getting one of the best top guys, like. Chargers fans did not want to hear it. And I get it. Like the receivers were so bad last year. You've got Justin Herbert. You want people to throw to. You dream of Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors or Romo Dunze or whatever. But the best path for this team was always to draft the offensive tackle in the first round. And to get Joe Alt, I think was maybe not like scheme fit exactly to the words of your question, but philosophically, this is exactly how you want to build your team. You now have Rashawn Slater.
Sorry to cut you off. Were you surprised that it was Joe Alt? I was a little surprised. I thought, because like there's all that smoke around. They want a more physical right tackle. J.C. Latham. Right. What's the guy's name? Fuaga from Oregon State. Like, were you surprised it was Joe Alt, or was that kind of something that you thought was just kind of, was he your best tackle, I guess?
Yeah. So, I mean, he was my top offensive tackle. So in that sense, it wasn't a surprise. I think in the moment, I was shocked that it was Joe Alt at number 5, just because there was so much smoke about Latham for the reasons that you mentioned, with them wanting to get more physical, them wanting to run the ball more, have more of a mauler on their offensive line. And not that Joe Alt can't be fantastic as a run blocker. I want to make that clear. And I think that's what goes into the surprise is leading up to the draft, we told ourselves like, oh, he's going to want a more physical run blocker, a Fuaga, a J.C. Latham, somebody like that. The Chargers would love to trade back as well. So are they going to get fancy and try to trade back, still get one of those offensive tackles as well? And they could have done that. But then at the end of the day, I think that I don't know if it's cooler heads prevailed or what happened, or maybe it was as simple as a month ago. Harbaugh and Ortiz, the general manager, and Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, just like everybody got in a room and Harbaugh went, why don't we just take the best offensive tackle? Right. And everybody went, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, sure, I guess. I mean, when you put it like that, yeah. And so, like, I was shocked that it was Joe Alt because of all the smoke and all the hype that we had heard for Latham or a trade back and things like that. But after, like, 60 seconds after it happened, I'm sitting there on the draft show and I go, of course they did. Right? Like, of course they took the consensus OT1 in the draft at number 5 when they needed one. Yeah, of course. So that's kind of how that's been one of those picks that I like the strategy. I like the fit there. That one's a lot of fun to me. I think so. I actually want to shout this one out. So I wasn't the biggest fan of Chop Robinson. I didn't have him with a first round grade. I think he's more of like kind of like a pass rush specialist. But for Miami specifically, I actually do like this pick. Now at 21, okay, we can talk about value. It's a little bit of a different.
Because you've kind of been like a Chop Robinson hater. I hate to put you on blast like
okay,
that.
All right, okay,
all right. But you've been leading that. You've been
Trevor,
leading that charge.
Is,
only 3 sacks. They're against whoever it was.
The good news is Logan listens to the podcast. The bad news is Logan listens to the podcast.
No, look, I can stand by all my draft takes. It is totally fair game. That is fine. And I was a little bit of a Chop Robinson hater, and I'll tell you what.
I'm in the same boat, just to be clear, just to take a little heat off you there.
This was a little bit of me looking at last year's class. And everybody in last year's class was talking about Tyree Wilson, right? Oh, Tyree Wilson, top 15 pick, top 10 pick. He's the next type of like Trayvon Walker guy. And I remember watching Wilson last year, and it felt like it was consensus that Wilson was like a top 12 player in this class. And I remember watching Wilson, I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing with this guy? Yeah, he's big and he's tall, but he doesn't really get off the ball. The pad level's not there. He doesn't have the backfield production. He doesn't really have bend to him. He's just got long arms. And he's got a nice speed to power move. Okay, a lot of people have that at the NFL level. Measurables are only so much of a force multiplier when you're not really that much of a diverse pass rusher after that. So I remember giving Tyree Wilson a second-round grade, but I didn't really stand on that conviction as much as I wanted to last year. And I felt like I absolutely should have. And that's kind of one of those things you learn the longer you do this as a scout. You get more confidence to be able to kind of get away from the group thing because, kind of what you guys were talking about, what we were talking about a little bit before the show. Like if the NFL sees something way different than how I see it, I go, well, shoot, am I just not seeing it correctly? So I was lower on Tyree Wilson, but honestly, I could have been even a little bit lower on him. Now, that's not to say that he's not going to work out, but it was a much less of a guarantee that he was going to work out than I think people were giving it credit for. So now you fast forward to this year, Chop Robinson. As I'm watching him, I'm kind of thinking the same thing. Is a lot of people have this guy as a top 4 edge rusher, a top 20 overall pick on or a top 20 ranked player on their big board. You have to bet on players with this athleticism. And I look at him and I go, okay, well, he doesn't really have the measurables or the strength level to be able to be a solid run defender. So I'm not sure how I like him when it comes to early down situations. He's got shorter arms and he's got shorter legs. So even though he's explosive, he doesn't really cover a ton of ground when he's getting out of his stance. So offensive tackles can sometimes still cut him off, even though he's a great athlete. When it comes to arm length, he's going to lose that battle against NFL offensive tackles often. And in order to really mitigate that, you have to be fantastic at block shedding and have a lot of different counters and moves. And really, you have to be able to anticipate what offensive tackles are going to do with their hands. And he doesn't. He really doesn't. He just wins as an athlete right now at the college level. And so we saw a pretty high pass rush win percentage because eventually he'd get by these offensive tackles. But the lack of backfield production shows you, okay, well, even though he's getting off the line really quickly and eventually he's getting by these offensive tackles, he's not doing it quick enough and he's not anticipating well enough to actually be able to make tackles in the backfield and end those plays. It only gets harder to do that at the NFL level. If you didn't do that in college, how am I supposed to think you're going to take this massive leap in the NFL, especially when you're not really changing positions? People bring up Micah Parsons all the time, but Micah Parsons was an off-ball linebacker. Then he switched over to edge, so it was a little bit of a different story for him. So when I watch Chop Robinson, I just go, okay, I can see where you are going to be successful. But it's not, I cannot subscribe to, just incredible athlete, just draft him. You got to be able to see how he uses that athleticism. Is there more in the tank? Are you going to evolve past that? Are you going to use that to increase different parts of your game? Are you going to be able to get better as a run defender? All these kinds of things. So I look at him and I had him 40th overall on my big board. I think he would have been an excellent second round pass rush specialist type of a player. And honestly, going back to the Miami point, you draft him at 21 and it's a situation where is that higher of where he was selected than where he was on my big board? Yes. But in Miami specifically, they got Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb both coming back from season-ending injuries. They got Shaq Barrett, who's a good veteran edge rusher as well, but he's somebody who hasn't really been the same since the Achilles. And a point that my boss, Chris Collinsworth, made when we were on the draft show is it's hot in Miami. I don't know if you guys knew that, but you're playing 8 home games a year, and those dudes get tired. Like conditioning in Miami is different than conditioning in other places around the country when you're playing those games. And so you've got to, for Miami, Miami is a team that emphasizes speed at every single position. And to truly get the most out of players' speed, what do you have to do? You have to keep them fresh. So you got to keep that defensive line deep, and you got to keep it talented. You got to keep it athletic. So I actually really like the Chop Robinson fit where he landed in Miami, even though it was a little bit of a reach versus where I had him moving.
It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Losing my mind just a little. Sounds like appropriate setup, Anthony. For a segment we do at 5:30 on Thursdays. And what did you know? It's 5:30 on a Thursday. it's time to dive in to them comments.
We tried to warn them. They didn't listen.
Yeah!
Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
All right, we cut up the show when our hard drive is working. Oh, man, it's going to be a long couple days for your boy getting that fixed. But we cut up the show. We put it on YouTube, at Craig Hoffman, at the Team 980. You leave comments. We read them. And some of them we read aloud here on the show again. So they have a full life cycle here on the Team 980. All right, we did a little bit of WNBA content this week around the charter planes and around the disaster that was the preseason schedule, the fact that almost none of these preseason games are on TV, which led to all kinds of very silly, nonsensical comments, but a couple of interesting ones, too. One of them dudes, which is objectively and a great YouTube name, at one of them dudes.
One of them ones, one of them dudes.
Or, like, if he's got, like, a brother, is it another one of them dudes? His friends?
One of the dudes.
Yeah. Maybe there's two of them dudes. Anyway, point is, I've been watching the W for a long time. I've seen this building for a couple of years. This year is, I think, a tipping point for interest in the women's game. Now, interest in fan engagement is sky high, and the league's leadership has no clue how to capitalize. I think that's spot on, right? There's no doubt, for those of us that have even watched for a long time, which I don't say it'll be like braggadocious or be like, I am better than you, whatever. No, just like as a fact, I've been watching WNBA basketball for a while, and I think you have too.
Yep.
And it's 100% bigger now than it was a year ago. The Aces Liberty elevated, that rivalry elevated the league last year. This class, which I think I loved this comment from this is another A+. It's Who Cares? HUKAYERS. Who cares?
Wow.
That is genius. That's one of those where if you don't say it out loud beforehand, you don't realize how funny. Like if you just read what's in front of you, that's a good bit. Anyway, but he said the WNBA draft class is reminiscent of the class LeBron got drafted in. The draft was peak for sports as well. Talking about this W class, right? Like LeBron was LeBron, Melo, D Wade, like it had Chris Bosh, it had such star power, and it turned out to be the best draft class arguably of all time. There's a bunch of other dudes who were like all-star level players later on in that class as well. And with Caitlin, obviously she's the LeBron, especially when it comes to the entertainment and the size of the audience, the number of people paying attention. Like that's about as good of a comparison of a player coming into the league as we can have in recent memory, if not ever. A totally transcendent known commodity with an incredibly high Q rating coming into the league. Caitlin, LeBron, about as high as it gets. And then you've got, Angel Reese is like Carmelo Anthony, on down the list in terms of popularity and comparing just purely from like notoriety and popularity, not in terms of play styles or anything, obviously. But the star power in this class is immense. And it is going to elevate the league to a totally new level. And that's really exciting. But the fact that the league office is so ill-prepared for that and hasn't been preparing for this for years, if not at least a year, to be ready for the attention when people are finally ready to give it to you is just inept leadership. And then there's this kind of comment that we got from Tim Smith Films and Animations. Or maybe it's Tim Smith. He spells it a very Irish kind of way, even though I definitely just said that kind of Australian. Anyway, the point is, they don't even televise every game in their season, but now it's a big deal. A game that doesn't even count, as this is obviously in response to our video, or our segment talking about the fact that they moved the Liberty Sky game to television after, 500,000 people viewed it on X. Now, I also will caveat here, people got so upset, Anthony, because the way Twitter/X counts views is ridiculous. And so they were like, that's not really 500,000 people. it was a lot of bleeping people, okay? Like, don't get caught up in the number. It's fine. You're going to be okay. You don't need to throw a hissy fit over every number that's not extrapolated out to its Amelia Bedelia definition. Anyway, they don't even televise every game in their season, which, by the way, is not true. But now it's a big deal. A game that doesn't even count. I think a lot has been made about nothing here, as I think the WNBA is only airing 3 preseason games in total. The Fever's game was sold out. It had more buzz. It was the most popular player. They aired it on the app, not even on TV. Let's wait to hold judgment until during the season. Then we shall see how WNBA fares with viewership. That should tell the story more than any amount of preseason games. 1, this shows the average depth of knowledge of people who are arguing against more coverage. The games are on TV every single night. Every team has a home team broadcast. Every game, has a home broadcast. That home broadcast is then given to the away team's network too. And every single game from every single team is available to a television audience. And every game that's not on national TV or your local team is on League Pass, which is the same exact thing as the NBA, basically, right? So I can watch any WNBA game I want to on WNBA League Pass unless I can watch it somewhere else, such as Amazon Prime, such as Ion, which is an actual TV station. And that, by the way, is where the Fever's game, the first one, was broadcast and where all of these preseason games should be available. It is just ridiculous that it's not. And in terms of the popularity up until this point, Anthony, are you familiar with the phrase, mess around and find out?
Yes, very familiar.
Yeah, there's an alternate version of that phrase that I can't say on the radio that's kind of more commonly used, but we're on the radio and regulated by the FCC. What I would say is the inverse of that statement is true as well, which is if you don't mess around, you don't find out. And sometimes that's a good thing, because sometimes you mess around, you find out, and what you find out isn't very good. But what I mean by that is it's really easy to keep telling people something isn't popular and there's no audience when you don't give the audience a chance to watch it. Why would we put it on? It's not popular. Okay, what if you tried? All right, we don't have to. It's not popular. They finally put it on and it's popular. Oh, well, it got popular. That's why we put it on. Really? Or would it have been popular if you put it on years ago when people were begging for it? Could it have grown faster and become a better financial investment as well sooner if you had actually done it? Because see, that's how investing works. That's how because all these people try to make this strictly financial argument about I can't tell you how many comments we have. And by the way, on the Team 980's page, the most popular video we've had in the last month is our segment on this. So on YouTube, like, there's a lot of discussion about this, and we're right in the center of it. And there's this stat that a bunch of people put that the NBA gives the WNBA $10 million a year just to be viable financially and stay underwater. I got news for y'all. It wasn't that long ago that half the teams in the NBA lost money every year. And the only reason that they were ultimately profitable in the league is because the league money, because there's revenue sharing. Major League Baseball, you think every team makes money? No, the Yankees just make so freaking much of it that they pay for everybody else. Like, the idea of revenue sharing and or in business, a wealthy investor keeping a company as it gets started and gets to profitability in business is nothing new. In fact, it's standard practice. So why are people so upset about this when it comes to women's sports? Yeah, the leagues are young. They needed financial support because putting on sporting events is ridiculously expensive. And so when it comes to broadcasts and charters and things, there were decisions made along the way that could have been made differently, and yeah, it would have cost more money, but it would have gotten a return on investment and gotten them into the black financially faster. The fact that they slow-rolled this was a stupid business decision, not a smart one, because that's how investing works. You lose money up front because by definition, you are giving money in. That is what investing means. If it was like give money, get money immediately, everybody would do it with every dollar they had. There'd be no risk, and it's immediate turnaround. I just don't get why this is so hard to understand outside of societal and cultural forces that open up a can of worms that I don't really feel like opening today. So, and I feel like we both should have just sipped our water there. We both should have just Kermit the Frogged it there.
You're
on the tee.
You're speaking to the choir, man.
That's all I'm saying.
You speaking now?
That's all I'm saying. Speaking of speaking. Real quick to wrap up. I thought this quote wrapped it up, or this comment. Michael Marone, 8753 says, I just can't understand why private private flights wasn't originally part of the budget. With the WNBA funded by the NBA, essentially, they could have put in bids with the airlines. Exactly. Like, they could have just done it. They didn't. It took Caitlin Clark having a creepy dude in the Dallas airport following her around for them to be like, must protect investment. Okay, but when Brittany Griner got back from Russia, nothing. Come on. Then there was the rant I went on Monday, Anthony. Andrew Blayhut, 6213 said, I sat in my car and heard, that's it, I'm never talking about this again. Here's what's trending, which was the end of that rant. And I was like, damn, I missed that. Anyway, thanks for posting, so now I know. If you missed the rant, which Fred Neuschwanter, 5784 said, the nicest and calmest rant ever. I got one too many comments about people saying that I was some kind of Drake May stan, which is not true. And I was tired of people telling me, essentially gaslighting me, telling me that I thought something that I didn't. And I was like, nope, we're done here. And now that the draft is over, I'm going to get this off my chest and we're going to move on. And so I did. And after I read through these comments, and this is the bow, we've put it in the box. Here's the bow. And then we're moving on forever. And I had a really some of the comments I thought were really good back and forths, including the one I had with Kennyman _DMV202. You know how Kenny's really real from the DMV, from DC. _DMV202.
Mm-hmm.
Me and most of the fan base wanted Jaden from the start. No disrespect. After watching all 22 QB film, I get your process, but when I see 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 1,100 rushing yards, my favorite stat, 5 career tackles after he throws picks, he's chasing down like Bobby Boucher. Craig, glad you landed with Jaden. Most experienced, best tape, best available player. And that's ultimately why you do land with him, is because you watch the tape and you're like, yep, I think this is the best guy. And then you do the background homework on who he is as a guy and a leader and a worker and all that stuff. And you're like, yeah, I think this is going to project to the NFL level. But the whole point of having a process is that you don't look at 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions and be like, okay, we're done here. Because we know that production alone doesn't translate to the NFL, especially at quarterback. There's nothing that translates with 100% certainty to the NFL at quarterback. Otherwise, someone would be good at picking them, and nobody is. Nobody is. You get lucky to be right. You do your best, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But the whole point of doing a process, which I think is especially poignant in media, right? Where the whole point for our show is to have the debates, is to have the discussions. If all I did was get on the air and go, I think they should take Jaden Daniels and give you nothing else, and told Anthony, hey, record that, play it on a loop for 3 hours with the commercials in between. Like, what kind of show is that? The whole point of this, both as a show that is designed to hopefully to entertain you guys, as well as educate and bring on expertise, bring on different opinions, all the things that we strive to do as a show, but also as like, if you care about this stuff and you're invested in doing it better, you can't learn anything if you don't go through the process. And so the whole point is, without all the information, by definition, you're making an ill-informed decision. So if you're like 40 touchdowns, 4 picks, 1,100 yards rushing, but I'm like, yeah, but this, and this, and you're like, I don't care about that. Like, okay. And maybe this, and this, or two of the thises are positive things that would solidify your decision. But if you don't have all the information, which none of us had the entire time, if we're being frank, because we don't have as much information as the teams do, but even for the amount that's publicly available, as new games got added to the resume on YouTube and the All-22 tape went up, if we didn't take the time to watch that, like, what's the point? And so that was my gripe with the king of the people that I was annoyed with, Aubrey44. And Aubrey and I have had some very good back and forths in between. I actually think we got to an interesting place in our back and forth through this video and through these comments. But he says, it was an ongoing process for you in a couple of local shows. However, Adam Peters and DQ and a few subscribers have made it clear that Jaden Daniels was the guy as soon as we watched the tape. We in all caps, Ant, which I will pick my bone in a second. It has nothing to do with being dogmatic, which is what I described it as people who made it their entire personalities of one of these quarterbacks. And it wasn't just Jaden. There were Drake May folks too. It's just that the film and the stats didn't lie. Nothing to be upset about. So here's what I would say, Anthony. First, as I told Aubrey in a reply, Adam Peters didn't make a decision as soon as he watched the tape. Like, they watched the tape January, February. They still had to interview him at the Combine. They still brought him in for that visit at the end just to make sure, which we talked about earlier today in the show with Mike Garafolo, that turned out to be the final, like, yep, nope, this is the guy. And part of it was Jaden apparently asked Adam Peters in that visit, according to Garafolo, why did you bring all these other quarterbacks here? And Adam's like, I'm glad you asked, and gave him whatever answer. And, like, passing all the tests, you got to make sure, because what if along the way there was something that came up that they're like, I don't like that. I don't like the way he works. I don't like the way he this. And it didn't. It didn't. But they didn't know that when they started, and it's not on tape. Secondly, looping yourself in, and I would say this for me, for you as a listener, as a viewer, as a whatever, looping ourselves at all in with Adam Peters is goofy. Don't do that. This is the best evaluator arguably in the sport. He's got access to more information than any of us can dream of. And I think that became crystal clear. I mean, I kind of knew that already based off some basic stuff that I would like to have. But the extent that teams go to in the draft is ridiculous. The piece that Jordan Rodriguez did in The Athletic, finding Rams, she embedded with parts of the Rams scouting department for the last 10 months and got way deep into their systems and their processes. And the Rams have, like, data scientists go through every team's draft to find out what kind of players they pick at each position, so that when they're on the clock, for instance, in the 5th round last year, and going, we really like this Puka Nacua kid, we got to make sure we get him. We have 5 5th-round picks, I think they did. Or they had like 4 or 5 5th-round picks, and they had to decide which one they were going to use on Puka Nacua. And they determined, based off the fact that the teams drafting between their first one when they were on the clock and their last one, which they ultimately took Nacua with, they wouldn't draft Nacua because they didn't like receivers, or they never drafted receivers who ran above a 4.5.
Oh, wow. Nacua ran above a 4.5?
He did. He didn't run well in his combine. His GPS numbers were great.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why Les Snead and Sean McVay were confident that he'd be just fine from a speed perspective in the NFL. The GPS data that they had from the college football stuff and from the Senior Bowl and everything else suggested he should have run in the low 4.4s, and he plays that way. But they knew that the profile of player that the teams they were concerned could take a receiver could take didn't fit Puka Nacua. So they took the risk of drafting other players they wanted over Nacua, and then snagged him later in the round.
Wow.
So unless you got that level of work in, don't be comparing yourself to an NFL general manager. And I don't say, again, that to be rude. It's just to illuminate how much information front offices have. Third, and perhaps most importantly, though, is I'm not upset about, and I wasn't upset about, I didn't, like, blow up about people disagreeing with how I saw quarterbacks. I enjoyed that discussion by and large. I enjoyed peppering people with questions and saying, hearing some of them go like, well, I never considered that. And others being like, I just don't care about that as much as I care about this other thing. Okay, that's fine. That's why scouting is a beauty in the eye of the beholder situation. I was upset at the dogmatic nature of how strong and frankly obtuse people's takes were on something that was clearly subjective. Like, if the Vikings traded up to 2, they were taking Drake May. And so unless you think that Kevin O'Connell's an idiot, like, what are we doing here? And lastly, that's, again, like, not really what I even lost it over. It was comments like this one from our guy LD Sams, who couldn't help but expose himself as the exact kind of person that everyone else is sick of through this process. And I will say, like, I've picked out a few negative comments here because it feels awkward in this segment, Anthony, to just pick out a bunch of comments like patting me on the back.
Yeah.
But there were a lot, statistically speaking, there were a lot more positive comments about that rant than negative ones, which was encouraging because the internet's where you should go for encouragement and to inflate your self-esteem. That's a joke, kids. Don't do it. It's why the segment's called Never Read the Comments. LD Sams, you ready for this one, Ant?
Yes, sir.
You lying, dude. May and JJ was your guys, and you should stand on it. You went with whatever Logan said. I stopped watching the show because of it. The guys didn't play a down of football since whenever, and none of these guys were better than Jaden if you just watch. But clearly you was May and JJ over Jaden, period. Stop lying, going on a clown rant when you got so many videos loving May and JJ. That's my issue. Don't tell me what my opinion is. And don't tell me what my take is. And we're not going to have problems. I'm not going to tell you. You don't tell me. And especially don't tell me when there are hours and hours of radio, hours and hours of podcasts, and other media platforms. I was on television. I don't even know what else I did with evidence to the contrary. I liked all three guys. I still like all three guys. You apparently liked one. You then claiming him like some precious resource and leaving the other two for me isn't how this works, no matter how bad you want it to be the way that this works. And while they didn't play any more downs of football, the ability to study those downs takes time. I took the time, and comments like these make me regret taking that time. Why did I do all that work if it's not going to be rewarded and it's just, in fact, going to be pooped on? Thankfully, as I said, though, there are dozens and dozens and dozens more of comments that said thank you for saying this. And when it comes to the actual quarterback evaluations, most of those people felt the same way. So I know that this dude's an outlier, which is why after today, I'm ignoring and or deleting comments like this. But this is literally what I was talking about. Don't tell me what I think because you can't listen and got caught up on one mock draft in March, which was prefaced with this is a snapshot in time and not final, and then be the reason that we have to actually put that disclaimer that we shouldn't have to in the first place. It drives me insane. Last but not least, you have this kind of thing from Young Irving, 5201. Craig, I would love to agree with you on giving grace for others, but I feel you fail to take your own advice. You have not offered the same grace for the Falcons or those who supported Penix. Just food for thought. And I don't think this is food for thought. I think this is like a rubber chocolate chip cookie that this dude's biting on, being like, why does this not taste like a chocolate chip cookie?
I don't know.
It's a false comparison. Like, there's a difference between having a disagreement with an opinion and having a debate versus shutting down all debate when it comes to the Penix things. And some of you guys just don't like your arguments being torn to pieces because they're not good arguments. I didn't say you couldn't make the argument. I couldn't say you couldn't have an opinion. I have plenty of great back and forths where people agree, disagree, whatever on the show when they call in. We go back and forth in the comments. I ask a question. They're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Or like, yeah, I don't care about that. Or I have the same thing where I'm like, you want to know what? You're probably right on that. I'm open to it. But I think what drives me nuts is you're allowed to have an opinion no one agrees with, but be prepared to be told all the reasons why no one agrees with you. When I said J.J. McCarthy was my quarterback too, and with various other things I've said over the years, when they cut against the grain, like I was ready. I'm in the opinion business. And by the way, giving an opinion and saying what a team does, an entity, a professional, like that's literally my job. It's like there's a way to be graceful about it for sure. And I'm always cognizant of the human beings involved. But like giving a strong opinion can still be done without being mean. And I think I've walked that line just fine. But if you want to debate something, that's fine. It doesn't mean I have to agree with you. My issue, again, just to close this out, was people telling me what my opinion was, or in some cases telling me I was wrong based on things that weren't true. And, you can go check at the Vibe Check Tuesday videos or, look it back in the comments. There are plenty of great back and forths. Disagreement isn't disrespectful by nature. And for sure, there are times where I can be more respectful in my disagreement. I'll own that. But telling me to have grace about people with a different Penix take, one that I haven't seen one single NFL person endorse, when I'm talking about people basically gaslighting me and telling me what my opinion is, when I've said is completely different, like that's a false equivalence. And so, we talk about the barbershop a lot, and I think some people in these comments need to, it's kind of the barbershop equivalent of touch grass. Like, they need to go to actual barbershops more and get offline a little bit.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you're just told in the barbershop to shut up and you're not allowed to take a part in the argument anymore.
You just
and, when we're talking about this thing over here, and you're like, but what about Michael Penix? You're the guy that nobody wants to talk in the barbershop. I'm sorry I got to be the one to say it, but when you get out of your car in the parking lot, we're like, oh, hell. I can't believe young Irving 5201's coming. I'm trying to end on a fun one. People really like the vlog that we did from Detroit. If you haven't watched that, check it out. And then last but not least, POC City 15 says, why does Hoffman bounce as he talks?
I've never noticed that.
Really?
Maybe when you...
It's worse at home. And the answer is in part because of my chair. My chair is a little bouncy. Also, I'm clinically diagnosed ADHD and I cannot sit still. So that's the answer to that question. I feel like I was really defensive there and I don't like it. But it's okay. We're never talking about it again.
Yeah.
We're never talking about it again.
On this day, May 9th, 2024.
I do declare.
Yes,
We're done. When we get back, we're going to talk. What are we doing at 6 o'clock? What did we decide to do? You had a really good topic. You're an excellent producer.
So
a terrible host you can't remember.
NFL top 10. No, Dak Prescott.
Oh,
or
yeah.
we talk about the officiating.
I think we're going to go. I think we're going to talk. We'll make a decision. We're either going to talk about the NBA or the officiating situation in sports, or we're going to talk about the Bleacher Report's new top 10 quarterback rankings, which has Dak Prescott too high? Question mark. Next on the Hoffman Show. the Hoffman Show here on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. Linnell will be in for me tomorrow and Monday, right? And there's
Doc is in on Monday.
Doc's in Monday, Linnell tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think Linnell is going to go to rookie minicamp tomorrow and then make his way down.
He is indeed.
So you will get a firsthand reportage from Ashburn tomorrow. I'm out making a little trip for Mother's Day weekend, so see everybody back here on Tuesday. Bleacher Report, it's ranking season. It's already started. I can't believe we're here, Anthony, but it is indeed ranking season.
Them lists, baby.
It's list season. And, now that kind of things, dust has settled, across the NFL landscape, quarterbacks tends to be where everybody starts. And I have seen two lists, or one, the Athletic Football Show did like a very interesting draft, which had a contract element attached to it. So for them, it was like, if you're going to start a team from scratch, which quarterback would you want for the next 3 years? Their contract is a part of it. And I was like, that's a cool exercise. And their results were pretty interesting. And the guy that I thought was most interesting on that list was Dak Prescott at number 6. Well, today, I'm trying to find it here. You sent it to me. There we go. Today, Bleacher Report put out their list. And this is from, let's see, we want NFL quarterback rankings from Brad Gagnon of Bleacher Report. And this is using the eyeball test along with a wide array of common, rate-based, and advanced statistics from Pro Football Reference and StatHead. Here's how we view the NFL's top 12 quarterbacks as the next phase of the 2024 offseason gets underway. Okay? Here's their top 12. They've got Justin Herbert 12th, which feels objectively absurd. Athletic Football Show had him 4th, I believe, behind Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar. I don't know that I have him either place, but I would have him much closer to 4th than I would 12th.
Yes.
Now, it also depends on who you're talking about for this year or for the next 3 years, because number 11 is Matthew Stafford. If it's the next 3 years, that's probably closer to correct. If it's this year, he might be in my top 5. People sleep on how good Stafford still is. Number 10, Tua, did not go in the Athletics draft, who went to 15. 10 here. Number 9, Burrow, who went 8 in the Athletics draft, if I'm remembering correctly, goes 9 here. 8, Goff, who didn't go in the Athletics draft, which was surprising to me. Number 8 here. Stroud, who went 4th or 5th. I think he went 5th. I think he did go behind Herbert, but maybe Herbert I think Herbert went 4. Stroud goes 7 here. Purdy 6 did not go in the Athletics draft. Hurts 5 went 15th in the Athletics draft. Prescott 4 went 6 in the Athletic draft. Allen 3 went 2 in the Athletic drafts. Lamar went 3. Here he's 2. And Mahomes is the one constant. He's obviously number 1. Now, this highlights, I think, the trouble in evaluating quarterbacks, which is where I think the actual discussion comes in a place that's interesting, which is people have a really hard time separating quarterback from situation. Because if I say, who's going to have the best season in 2024, and you get 15 picks, there's no way Tua Tagovailoa is not in that 15. But he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and his play caller's Mike McDaniel. If you tell me Dak Prescott does he subbed out for Tua Tagovailoa, who has a better year? Dak in Miami or Tua in Miami? And even the fact that is a hard discussion to have highlights the issue. Because realistically, it's not that hard. Dak's the correct answer. But we convince ourselves because Tua's such a great fit for Miami. oh, but Tua's got the quick release. Like, he's a great ball handler. He does all the stuff that Mike wants him to do. It's like, yeah, and Dak could do all that and more. And he's got a better arm. Like, that's why I think this gets so hard. And why I think while taking, like, Dak over Joe Burrow feels insane, and frankly, I still think is insane, that's what I'm having a hard time talking myself into. I listened to, like, Derek Classenberry on the Athletics show talk about Dak having kind of the Peyton Manning playbook available, where, like, Peyton had the whole playbook available at the line. Like, they trust Dak to do that stuff, and he does it at an extraordinarily high level. And by the way, Dak Prescott's been the quarterback on a 12-win team 3 years in a row. I know the playoff stuff has been ugly, but that dude's a damn good quarterback. But it just feels crazy because, like, Burrow's such a baller, but then you're like, oh, well, who's got a better arm? Well, Dak's actually got a better arm. Burrow's touch is crazy. But arm strength, arm talent, Dak's got a better one. Who's been more durable? Dak. Who has a bigger mental load? Well, Dak and Burrow are actually pretty close. Burrow's actually a guy who has a lot of that stuff. Who throws the ball better over the middle of the field? Like Dak does. Like the numbers just are what they are. And again, like, that's the hard part about the situation thing. Because with Burrow, it's a little bit of what we talked about with Jaden at LSU. He throws outside all the time. Yeah, of course he throws outside all the time. You seen what he's got outside? But it's how they run their offense. And the question is, if you're starting from scratch, who would you rather have? And could Burrow do the stuff that Dak does because Dak doesn't have as much around him? And what would that look like? Yeah, it made you think way more than you thought you were going to have to think, huh?
It's not even, I mean, you were just talking about teams. You were just talking about teams, right?
Yeah.
Dak has a top 5, top 3 defense at his expense.
That's a great point.
Burrow doesn't have that, and we saw Dak in the playoffs against Green Bay. When the defense isn't playing well and the offense is, doing what they're supposed to do, they end up losing the game.
But also, Dak had really one bad quarter against Green Bay.
And it hurt a lot.
It hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, the turnovers in that game were crazy. But what were Dak's
really
finals?
That first half.
I'm trying to remember. Dak, I think, threw for like 400 yards in that game.
Yeah, because they were down and defense just couldn't stop a nosebleed.
Let's see, game log, Green Bay. They lost that game 48-32. Now, some of that 48, was there 1 or 2 pick sixes? It was not good.
Yeah, he definitely threw. He actually might have thrown 2.
He had 2 picks in the game.
2.
Yeah, so, like, yes, the 48 is partly on him, but we know in the second half they couldn't get him the ball back. He threw it 60 times. He still almost completed 70% of his passes. With 2 picks and 60 attempts, he still completed 68.3% of his passes through 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but they're in prevent defense at that time. Just like when the coach played the Texans and
but that's kind of the
CJ's numbers were inflated because they're getting blown out already.
But he brought them back. Like, he just kept scoring. I mean, late in that game, I mean, the Cowboys last, like, how many drives was it? Let's see. Let me. Dun, 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 dun. The interception, it was just 1 pick six. Second half of that game, after the last pick six, they brought him back down for a touchdown at the end of the half. Mm-hmm. And then they went field goal, touchdown, turnover on downs, touchdown, turnover on downs, 11-play drive.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty good half of football. So, I also don't want to make this a referendum about Dak on one game.
Yeah.
But, like, the point is, like, if you ask Dak to operate just about anything, he's going to be able to do it. And that's a thing that I don't think we associate with Dak Prescott. And the smartest people that I think talk about the game associate that kind of stuff with Dak Prescott. And that made me open my eyes. I'm like, do we underrate Dak Prescott? And the answer that that's the funny thing, though. If you tell me I can have Prescott or Burrow, even with all of the things I just said, I'd probably still take Burrow. The only concern I have is injury.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier, though, when you have a great offensive line in front of you. Burrow has never had that.
True.
And that's part of, why he's always banged up. And why Dak, he's afforded to be able to, put up some of the numbers he puts. I'm going Burrow regardless.
I would go Burrow as
Burrow's
well.
in my top 5. I would love for him to, be on the field, stay healthy. And And that is a huge part of the risk that you take if you do go Burrow. But what he does at the line, his process and his ability to make every throw in the man.
But that's the thing. Like you say he can make every throw in the book. I would tell you that he probably can't.
Okay.
And that's the thing. Is like, but he finds a way to get the ball there.
Yeah.
Like if you were to do a horse contest between Dak and Burrow, Dak would win. But that's not the job. The job is how do you figure out how to throw with the anticipation and whatever to get the ball there. And Burrow's touch is so immaculate that it's, and also like his deep ball is so good. Even though the arm talent from a strength, velocity standpoint isn't there, he throws the deep ball so well, a la J.D. Daniels, by the way. Like very similar profiles as throwers. Like that creates some defensive schematic advantages because you're so concerned about the deep ball. Especially when Jamar Chase is the guy running it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Here's I think, the fun question. Here's where we get real wacky on the phone lines at 301-230-0980. I want either your most overrated or your most underrated quarterback in football. Most overrated or most underrated quarterback in the NFL. 301-230-0980. Your calls. Lord knows where this is going to land. Next. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Asking you on the heels of ranking season beginnings and some quarterback rankings dropping all over the place. Who is your most overrated and underrated quarterback in the NFL? 301-230-0980 is the phone number. And do you have either a highly overrated or underrated quarterback before we hit the phones?
I'm not going to lie. I was expecting us to get a whole bunch of Kirk Cousins calls, you know?
Is that your answer?
I'm not even going to say he's...
And also, which one?
What you mean, which one?
You think he's overrated or underrated?
I
know you expected people to call in and say he's overrated.
Yeah. I sort of kind of think he's a bit overrated.
I think he's kind of properly rated.
You
Like
think so?
on average. I feel like very few people actually rate him properly, but some people way overinflate him and some people underinflate him.
Oh. Okay.
I think Purdy's a little underrated at this point, but that's like a little bit.
You still think he's underrated?
Yeah, because people just think he's a caretaker, like
Oh.
doesn't actually do anything, and it's like,
Yeah.
nah, he's better than that. But like, he's not a top 10 quarterback in the league. So like, whatever. I just think Lamar's a little. I know he's like, obviously he's not underrated in that he's just won the MVP, but I actually feel like a lot of fans underrate just how good
Yes.
he is.
I think
Which like got real twisted this time last year when we were having those discussions, because I was
Yep.
like, this isn't about Lamar the football player, it's about how money works and contracts. And people were like, you're a Lamar hater. I'm like, no, I'm a stupid contract hater.
I totally agree. Definitely think he's underrated. And now he's sort of kind of being put back, you know, where he belongs in
Yeah.
the top 3, top 4.
And look, like the
category.
injuries are a part of it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think this is kind of what's happening. I think Burrow is currently being underrated because people forget just how ridiculously good he is.
Yeah.
Because he's hurt, and availability is the best ability. 301-230-0980. Let's go to, oh, that's the wrong mouse. Let's go to Nate. Nate, thanks for calling. Who you got, either overrated or underrated, and which one?
I'm gonna can I give you one, like a couple for each?
Sure.
So first one, this is gonna be the biggest shock, at least Ant was. I think Aaron Rodgers is really overrated. And I also think on that same vein, like Justin Herbert is overrated. I don't get the freaking Justin Herbert love. And my two underrated guys would be Matthew Stafford. I feel like is kind of really underrated. I feel like, and then also what's the other guy's name? Dang, the young guy.
From which team? Where
I'm
we
sorry.
headed?
No, he's not young. I'm sorry. Jared Goff. I think Jared
Okay.
Goff. It's funny because they're kind of related. They're also
Yeah,
related
no, for sure.
in a sense because of that trade.
Yeah,
I think
no.
both of those guys are way underrated.
Yeah, no, I think those are interesting names, Nate. Appreciate the call. I think if I have to pick one, Stafford underrated is my answer. I think he's been underrated basically his entire career. He lost a bunch of times in Detroit that were not his fault. He had absolutely crap defenses and was working within a crap organization, and just he got to LA and people were like, oh yeah, no, this guy's sick. And he's still last year, like when the Rams had a healthy Stafford last year, they were a formidable football team who had no business being a formidable football team. And he's now at the point where we're getting near the end with him. So he's no longer at the peak of his powers. And obviously the injuries have been an issue. And he's taken a beating over the course of his career. But like, yeah, you tell me I need a guy for next year. There certainly aren't 10 guys. There's barely 5 guys I'm taking before I take Matthew Stafford for 2024. And Goff, I think too, like Goff was a former number 1 overall pick. He has all the talent. And I think in Detroit, like, yes, there are issues with him in terms of consistency, in terms of layering throws, in terms like he sometimes just is all fastball, but like he's so good. And I think they found a great job of showcasing that in Detroit. And he's also, I think, really developed as a person into like a pretty good leader of an organization as well. And I think that's another good point. Rodgers, from a skill standpoint, it's just impossible to underrate what that guy does. Like, he was a Mahomes prototype, and then Pat just took it to a whole nother level, and that whole other level also probably includes some intangible things that help him win, where Rodgers has come up short in the playoffs. but as a talent, that's hard for me. Who was his other overrated one?
I thought it was just mainly A-Rod.
A-Rod, he said one more. I forgot. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's go to Wade real quick. Wade, thanks for calling. Who's your either overrated or underrated QB?
So I had underrated. I also said Matt Stafford, but I'm going to switch it up now since that was the last caller's pick too. So I'm going to say Russell Wilson. I know it's kind of like a gutsy pick, but I think he kind of got like the brunt end of the bad stick that they had from Denver. But I don't even think he really had that bad of a season last year.
No.
He just, he got thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, Wade. Thanks, and sorry to step on your Stafford take there, but I think that Russ is certainly not what he used to be. Like, there was about a 3 to 5 year stretch where Russell Wilson was a legitimate MVP candidate, one of the best 5 quarterbacks in football. Like, every year, you knew he was going to be a factor in the MVP race. He was that good, and he's not remotely that anymore. But people should stop thinking that means he's bad. He had a pretty good year last year, and 2 years ago was a rough year for a million reasons for him in Denver. He didn't do a good job, and he was overweight, which is something that he's talked about. That's not me putting that on him. He came back in sick shape. They had a better coaching staff, obviously, but also a coaching staff that clearly hated him. And despite that, he had what statistically would be like one of the 3 best quarterback seasons the Commanders have had in the last 2 decades. And that was like a bad year for him in Denver. So I actually agree that at this point, Russell Wilson's probably underrated. He's not someone I want to build around. Like, there's a lot of personality quirks. But as a football player, as a quarterback, probably a little bit underrated at this point. All right, when we get back, refereeing, why does it suck? It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980, where you see a full screen of just Anthony Haney dancing. I'm not even on the screen right now yet. It's all solo you. Oh, hey. Why'd you stop?
I'm crazy, huh?
Great, talented.
Hey, look, I try. I try to whip out the dance moves here and there.
Keep things light. Keep
Yeah.
things fresh. Okay. Foul! Just kidding. You were doing great. And that's my impression of the Knicks-Pacers game last night. Oh, talk about a transition. I don't know what to say at this point, Anthony. It's so frustrating watching the world's best athletes with the highest stakes on the line just have men whose job it is to officiate the game, to make sure everything runs smoothly, be the reason that it doesn't run smoothly. And we can get back to Knicks Pacers in a second, but this is not just an NBA problem. We've seen it in the NFL. I mean, think about a couple years ago, the missed PI call, right? And sometimes it's making calls and sometimes it's not. But that missed call in the Saints-Rams NFC Championship game or NFC Divisional Round game, I think it was the second round.
Yeah, second round.
And then the Rams obviously go on to win the Super Bowl. Like, that's wild. And it changes the course of history. And it's the kind of thing that 50 years from now, someone from that Saints team is going to be like, I should have won the Super Bowl. And, the Rams are never going to talk about it. They're going to be like, here's my Super Bowl ring. And tell me about all the games, Grandpa. Well, there was this one against the Saints. Whoopsie daisies. I don't know why all old football players now sound like some cartoon character. Sorry to all the future former football players. But, like, that's just unacceptable, right? If these are the best of the best and guys make mistakes, but damn, that's unacceptable. And then you have, like, what happened in the Champions League yesterday, which I think is even worse, right? And this relates back to the NBA, so I'll loop it all in a second. But, like, when that call happened in the NFL game a couple years ago, Saints-Rams, they literally changed the pass interference rule the next year to be like, we got to give referees a chance to correct these mistakes. They wound up undoing that because it became too difficult to officiate and there were other things. And again, there are ways that they can do this correctly. No one seems to figure out that if you just actually enforce a clock of like 30 seconds, then it becomes very easy to correct clear and obvious errors because they don't take that much time to correct because they are clear and obvious. And if you can't do it in 30 seconds, it is neither clear or obvious. But who wants to listen to me? I'm just a guy talking into a microphone. Anyway, the whole VAR system in soccer and the review system in the NBA exists in a way to try to help officials. Let things happen. Then if you have to correct it, okay, you can correct it. There's a challenge system, the whole deal. And in soccer especially, there's a chance to review, as long as you let the play out, a chance to review. In the NBA, that's not necessarily like that because you can't rewind the game. Soccer, it's kind of a thing that's just accepted is, hey, this thing happened in the penalty box. We're going to review it at the next stoppage of play. Now, I don't know what happens if the next stoppage of play is, which is as much soccer as I watch, I should know this. And for as involved in much that I know, I should know this. But, like, what happens if you then, like, something happens in the box that should be a penalty kick? The next stoppage in play is the other team scores a goal going the other way. I don't know exactly how that works. But because of the nature of soccer and the fact that I've watched so much soccer that I've never had to have that situation play out is kind of the point. The NBA, you can't rewind the game because you could have 4 or 5 possessions where a score change happens before you have the chance to review it. So it's an instantaneous timeout review, or it's just it's gone. It happened. But in soccer, you're supposed to have the ability to go back and look as long as a play is not prematurely blown dead that shouldn't have, which is exactly what happened in the last minutes of the Champions League semifinal, the biggest club tournament on the planet. And this line judge calls a play offsides. Referee, the guy what should have happened is the linesman should have ran to the spot, and waited for the play to play out and then been like, offsides. Instead, he immediately goes offsides. Ref sees it, blows the play dead. As the play is being blown dead, Real Madrid stops. Bayern Munich scores. and they can't review it because the play was blown dead. And they can't be like, well, the goal counts, because Real Madrid would be like, we scored. And to have a mechanism in place to correct that kind of error and not even administrate it properly, I just don't know what you do at that point. Which brings us to last night, Knicks Pacers. And the game is pretty much over at this point. And Josh Hartenstein is called for a double dribble late. It's not a double dribble. They actually got the call correct eventually. But because they blow the whistle and make a call, it should be Pacer ball. Like, you have to stick for the call. That's not a reviewable play. Then they just go, oh, sorry, inadvertent whistle. And Rick Carlisle's like, what the hell? If you can just do this, why didn't you do it the other night when you phantom called a kickball on us in an actual situation where the game was in the balance and you stole possession of us when we had a chance to make a difference? And so I get why Carlisle's upset. And I think the lack of consistency is the problem for the Knicks. I don't think his small market team thing is whatever. That's just laying it on thick in the subconscious of the referees for the next game, trying to buy some calls for at home, and maybe even in Game 5 if they can get it back to Madison Square Garden. But it's the kind of thing where if these are the best, we got to find a better way. We got to find a way to help them, because we're not here to see refs screw up games and be involved in matches and games and contests in ways that take away from the action. They're just there to make sure that the action goes on smoothly, and that's not happening in the biggest moments at the highest levels.
Yeah, and it's also just, I mean, we all got to understand, they're humans. There's human error in these games, but some's got to give, man. They got the NBA Replay Center in Secaucus. They've been called out before because they can actually help in these kinds of moments of games. But it's also the speed at which a lot of this stuff takes place. It is tough. Like
it's so hard.
I wouldn't want to be a ref.
And
I would
that's
not want to
kind
do
of the
that.
thing, right? Is some of this stuff is happening so fast, which is why, in theory, the soccer system, and the reason I loop this in is not just because it's something that I watch. And I mean, look, a lot of people listening watch. I have to convince them that this is important. It's the biggest sporting event in the world. It's the one thing that's bigger than the Super Bowl is Champions League, and this is the semifinal of that tournament, right? But in theory, soccer's got it figured out, which is in part because of the nature of the game, which is we let it play out, and then if we have to correct it, we do. And that's why this is so inexcusable, is like they didn't follow the procedure, which should have allowed them to have this ultimately play out in a way that lands with a tie game and extra soccer yesterday. For the NBA, it's a lot harder because if it's a close call, like you gotta go one way or the other. In soccer, you can literally delay. Hey, that was close. I'm not going to throw my flag up. I'm pretty sure it was offsides, but it was close. So I'm going to give it a second. Play played out. Okay, offsides. Now let's go to the VAR and check it. Oh, it turns out that wasn't offsides, which is actually, by the way, what happened literally on the other end of the field 5 minutes prior. Real Madrid had a goal that was initially ruled offsides, but then they looked at it because the play was dead, and then they're like, oh, no, that's a goal. You can't do that in the NBA. And that's, I think, the hard part is this game moves so fast. This whole thing is such I don't think, unless you've sat courtside for an NBA game, you realize how hard it is to officiate. And these guys overall do such a good job. And I think, Ant, that's my biggest frustration is when they, how do they get the replay stuff wrong? It's one thing to get it wrong on a court. And there are times that it's really frustrating. But I think some of the judgment calls, like the moving screen at the end of game 1, where it's like, that's just not a call you make there. And also, how do you sometimes look at replay and still get it wrong? Those are the things that I'm just like, that's unexcusable or inexcusable. And the leagues have to do, and the officials and the officiating unions and everybody has to do better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to add to that. Like,
we need to get you an amen button. Sometimes you're just like, I don't have a lot to add here.
Yeah,
amen.
Hey, look, I think all the points that you raised were all valid, and all I can do is be like, Craig, you're onto something, man. You're
Would you
onto
like?
something.
Would you like a single? Amen. Would you like a church chorus? Amen.
I'm gonna get it right here. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get on my board so I can just. Have
Does
this
it? Is it on Cowboy Carter? There's an amen at the end of, I think, American Requiem.
Possibly.
The opening track.
Yeah.
Maybe we get that for you.
All right.
All right, we'll work on Anthony's amen. When we get back, the latest. Actually, I'll give it to you right now. In fact, what's trending? We got NBA coaching news. Tell it to you right now. on a Thursday afternoon, wrap it up here on the Hoffman Show, which I'm reminding myself because I was kind of expecting to hear Friday by Rebecca Black, Anthony, because it's my Friday. But it's not your Friday, and really that song's about you.
Yes, it is all about me, but it's okay, Craig. You can rub it in because I'm not going to lie. I'm a little jealous that today's your Friday. I'm not even a little jealous. I'm a lot jealous.
I totally understand. You did that to me a couple weeks ago.
I did indeed.
So there's that.
You really thought I was gonna play it today? No,
I just it's been really weird because I mentally had yesterday was Thursday, today is Friday.
Man,
that's really how I felt all day. I went and got a haircut this morning, and my barber, shout out to Tarina, we were talking, and it's her Friday today too, and we were just saying it really has felt like that in a way. Sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I'm done this week, bro. I'm dragging across the finish line here.
Must be nice, man.
I mean,
must be real nice, Craig.
I'm not trying to rub it in. I'm just
letting you know that it really must be nice that to have this as a Friday when it's actually Thursday.
I work hard, Anthony.
Yes, you do.
I think I've earned it.
Yes.
I think I've earned the ability to go and take a trip that I want to take.
Mm-hmm. Tell Mon Dukes I said, hey.
I will.
No,
so this should be fun. We're going down to South Carolina. We're flying into Columbia tomorrow. And we are Saturday going to the Aces, Las Vegas Aces versus Puerto Rican national team preseason game in Columbia. And then my mom is meeting us down there. Then we'll go back to Greenville and get to spend Mother's Day with my mom and my grandmother. And then we'll come back, and I got Monday off to kind of recover and recuperate. And then we'll be back at it on Tuesday. We have rookie minicamp to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one bummer is I am going to miss rookie minicamp, but that's okay. I'll see these guys in real minicamp in a couple weeks. And, yeah, what are you doing for Mother's Day weekend?
I know we're taking my mom to either brunch or dinner at not brunch, lunch or dinner at True Lux.
Okay. Yeah. Haven't been, but I know it.
Yeah, and then I don't know, I got to talk to my brothers. They're all home, so we'll figure they have some stuff planned.
I was going to say,
I want to do the True Lux thing.
I hope someone has some plans.
Yes, probably gonna be my older brother. He's going to
making reservations. God bless my mom. She texted us earlier today in a group chat to make sure that the place that she booked, we could all, with our varying food allergies, could eat at. And I was like, yeah, there's not a lot here for me, but I kind of already know what I'm ordering. I'll see. I'm good. And she was like, oh, I just checked all the other places and they're sold out. I'm like, yeah, Ma, it's Thursday. I almost said Friday. It's Thursday. Mother's Day is Sunday. Yeah, everyone else is sold out for Mother's Day brunch. It's almost Mother's Day.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, Greenville, South Carolina is not quite as big as Washington, D.C., especially if you want to include the entirety of the DMV. So you could probably find somewhere, but there's a lot more people here, too. So I was about to say, I hope y'all, hope one of the brothers has made some plans.
Yes.
If you missed any part of the show today, definitely worth checking out. We had Mike Garafolo earlier in the show at 4:15. So you can rewind or check that out. It's already up in the Hoffman Show podcast feed. Anything else to let the people know about, Ant?
Linnell's in tomorrow.
Yeah, Linnell's in tomorrow. You have any idea what he's got besides fire?
We have nothing right now. Well, we have camp.
Yeah, Linnell's going to rookie minicamp, and so I'm sure he will have 3 hours worth of takes off of one practice with, about 7 NFL players in it.
Yeah. But
the way you just batted your eyebrows, your eyelashes, I mean. And oh yeah, that's probably what I'm doing with tomorrow. That was funny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else. I think tomorrow will just figure itself out.
I will say this, all joking aside, Linnell also is such a hustler. He's going to come back with a bunch of interviews. So I would almost guarantee you will get a chance to hear from, the draft picks are doing, I think, media scrums, but all of the undrafted free agents are available coming off the field for media. So I'd imagine he'll have a few one-on-ones with some of the priority UDFAs, not to mention sound from all the draft picks.
Hartman, quarterback?
Yeah. You see they put him in slow-mo today?
I did not see
him and Luke McCaffrey walking in together, and they did like the slow-mo walk-in. And it's like, yeah, that man's hair is very nice. I get why people are up in a tizzy about it.
Do you think he does a double take? Like where he walks past a mirror and all right. Does he do
I mean,
one of
he gets to be him every day.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
So probably. All right, that's all tomorrow. This is how we wrap up today.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11. Not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
Just because it's my Friday, Ant, you making me go 30 seconds longer today than we typically have been going the rest of the week? Is there something else going on tonight?
I'm not sure what happened over here, to be honest, Craig. Because usually we have about 4 minutes worth of spots. We only have 3.5 today. So, yeah. There's that.
Sales. What happened to my other 30 seconds?
I don't know.
It's 30 seconds I'm never going to get back. It's okay. Real things, real people said into real microphones. Speaking of, never mind, I'm not going to get ourselves in trouble. Anthony, I think you know the joke I was about to make. Earlier today, which one was this? Oh, yeah. Caitlin Clark was asked at a press conference about any like post-game traditions, anything like that, anything she likes around game day. And apparently, Ma's chocolate chip cookies is a factor, and that caught the ears of some of her new compadres in Indiana.
I know that you're very busy, but I'm just curious, is there something else that you like to do that comes very close to your love for the game?
I like warm chocolate chip cookies, so I guess that, making those. Oh, I'm tired. Well, when my mom would come to my games at Iowa, like she would always bring like a dessert or something for my teammates and the coaching staff, so we'll have to keep that going. All right, Ann Clark, if you're hearing this, bring the desserts to May 16th versus New York. You heard it.
Mama, got the cookies?
May 16th. I know where I need to be, Craig. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I will say, when I worked for the Spirit, major perk of working in women's sports versus men is not that I'm sure there are some dudes out there that are great bakers, but it tends to be more of a thing in women's sports. Aubrey Bledsoe, Ashley Hatch, for instance, tremendous, or it's Aubrey Kingsbury now, Bledsoe when I was there, tremendous bakers. Like Aubrey wants to open a bakery with her twin sister when she gets done playing.
That would be tough.
And so you just walk in some days and there's treats. Freshly homemade baked treats.
Wow. What was your favorite one?
See, I got stuck in the COVID year, so I didn't get as many treats. I heard about a lot of treats. I think Aubrey had like a peanut butter cookie that was kind of the jam. The jam. All right, that's our show. Linnell in tomorrow. Doc in on Monday. I'll see y'all on Tuesday on the Team 980.